All right, Cassidy. Um, a lot of these listeners that I have are going to reflect and align with your story, I think. So I want to dive into your story of, in the electrical industry and now creating like financial freedom for yourself. And it's just a different life through real estate investing. And I want this to be like a really great, like almost masterclass for people to be able to do this on their own. Not necessarily saying that they might have to leave the industry that they're a part of, but just that they can think about moving other directions and through real estate. So anyway, I'm excited to talk to you, and I really want to get in on this.
Yeah, well, I'm a real estate investor now, and I have left corporate, but it wasn't always that way. I started in the power industry as an engineer out of school. I literally knew nothing about substations, transmission lines, power. I didn't know what 230 kV was, 115 kV, distribution, transmission. I had no idea what any of this stuff was. And I ended up in the substation operations department as like this like green thumb, right? Greenhorn. And luckily, the crews, they like embraced me. They like saw me as this like little baby deer, like, hey, let's let's help you. And I ended up like really falling in love with the work because of, I think, all the reasons why linemen and journeymen and wiremen and metermen fall in love with the work, because it's so rewarding and it feels so good, and you're helping customers and you're building big things, and there's brotherhood and camaraderie. And I really grew up in the industry with the wiremen and the journeymen. Like, I was on the crews, I was on top of transformers, I was storm duty. I mean, that was something that I did being out here in the Pacific Northwest. All I wanted to do was learn and grow, be out in the field, like help customers build big things, and like help the people around me. And my operations experience and my brothers and sisters on the operations side really like had a big part to do with that.
Why engineering? Why electrical engineering?
That's funny. I didn't know what I wanted to do in high school. I was always good at math and science. I had built my own computers when I was in middle school, and this is like the 90s, right? I taught myself how to program websites and build websites when I was like in sixth, seventh grade, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And then there was a presentation from someone in high school. They were showing me some diagrams and things, and I was like, yep, that's what I'm gonna do. That's literally how I decided to be an engineer. But I knew that it fit with my math and science background. But the other thing that was really important for me is being outdoors. I did not like being in a cubicle. I did not like sitting still. I did not like being stuck and trapped in one place. And so I remember searching after college for a job that I was able to be outside or in the field, and talking to a lot of engineering groups. It almost didn't exist back then. It was all software dev. It was like I was in the Bay Area, and it was all software, all software. But I wanted to be out in the field. I wanted to work maybe on cars. I didn't know exactly what. And then the recession hit, and I was like, oh crap, I need to get a job. And luckily, this is the job that I was able to apply to. It showed up, and it was working out in the field with operations as an engineer. So I was getting to use my degree, even though it didn't teach me anything about really substations. But what I've learned now about why being an engineer and why moving into real estate also is I love building. I love creating. I love connecting. I love when things work, right? I love seeing something go from nothing, from like a patch of dirt, to this massive substation, right? I take a lot of pride driving around my state of Washington, and I can point out every single thing that I built on the side of the road, because in my 10 years that I worked for the company, I built a lot of stuff. I was managing $50 million substation budgets, and like in the field with the crews, constructing everything. Like every week, I was driving all over the state, and I was having so much fun doing it because I had never done anything like that. I've never built stuff that big, right? And you've
Yeah.
hung out of helicopters and like stringing line together, and like the emotions that I felt with the crews, building things and helping customers, that's really what tied it all together for me. Was I felt like I was part of a bigger thing, not just building something, but building something for the businesses that relied on the power, the customers that needed to cook food for their family
It's one
that
of our
night.
biggest beefs with engineering, actually, like as a lineman, as a field worker, one of our biggest beefs with engineering was like they don't get out of from behind the desk and come out into the field. And when I grew up in power lines, like I grew up, my father was a lineman as well. I'm second generation. He had a small power line company. So I remember like even as a kid, I remember my dad talking about like the engineers or just the designers were out in the field too. Like they were out in the field more designing like in the field, and then they just get back to the desk, they put shit together for you, draw up the stuff, drop the plans, fire it off to you. But like they spent a good 50%, 75% of their time in the field. And I think that's like completely flipped now. Guys don't even want to get out from behind the desk and go out into the field.
Yeah, and I think you can blame school and the internet and devices for that. I think it's insulated a lot of people. It's also why I was so successful in the company is because I came from operations, so I knew how to speak the language, right? So I was an engineer in ops, and I could speak the language. Then the engineers that wanted to hide in the corner, they looked at me. They're like, Cassidy, go talk to him. Go talk to him. You know. And I loved it. I loved it because I could add a ton of value, and I literally could translate, right? And, you know, and I didn't know that I was like being a leader at the time, and that's sort of what was going on. But the best thing for any engineer to do is to go talk to your customer. And your customer is not literally the customer out in the field or that's receiving the power. You should talk to them, but go talk to whoever is going to be looking at your prints and is going to be physically constructing the thing that you're designing, because they may not ever tell you that your designs suck and that they had to change everything. You may not ever understand what they need, but if you can like come together and create something together, that's when relationships are built and that's when trust is built, and that'll last forever.
It happened so many times where we would call in, or you'd get so frustrated because like what you're seeing on the prints just not physically what you could build, and you just the whole time you're like, man, this just isn't going to work. And they'd be like, well, it says it's going to work, just build how we freaking drew it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'll build it how you drew it. And then sure shit, it falls apart or it just doesn't come together. You're like, see, if you just get your ass out here, you'd be able to see this what we're trying to explain to you.
Yeah, it's funny. I've driven probably 3 hours on one trip just to look at something that I
For
designed.
5 minutes.
Yeah, for 5 minutes to be like, okay, I get it. And then I drove back. But that's what it took.
Yeah.
And that's really how you can be successful. And not even on the engineering side, but even on the line side, like being able to do the work to like go be curious and go want to build the right thing, which I know that they all do. And from an engineering perspective, I think they lose the plot on why linemen care so much. And it has to do with safety, number one, because they're going to have to operate it, and they're going to have to show up in the middle of the night when the power's out and, you know, the bus is destroyed or the breakers are tripped and they don't know what's going on. Like, they need to trust that you like did your designs right and that they need to safely operate that thing, right? And so I think engineers forget that a lot of times, that really where linemen and wiremen are coming from a lot of times is because of a safety concern.
If you've ever had to stand under a 60 kV switch and just like pray that when you close this switch manually, that everything holds together and that doesn't explode above you, it's a freaky feeling.
It's really scary. It's a dangerous job.
Yeah.
It's a really dangerous job. And then you're out in the middle of nowhere most of the time, right? It's always that one switch that's like, you got to walk in, right? It's never just off the side of the road. Here's the one that's all good to go.
It's pissing rain.
It's pissing rain. The towers swaying. Like it's always a dangerous environment. And that's why I wanted to be out in the field. Like I wanted to experience all of that. Like I didn't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
But like I was begging to go do storm duty, and that's where I learned a lot of everything that I knew, and like how dangerous it was and how important this work was. And then that's when I got an opportunity to go into dispatch and also manage all the storm response. And it was like every weekend, every other weekend, especially October through April storm season, every other weekend a storm would come through, 50,000, 100,000, 300,000 customers out.
And what area is this that you're talking about?
In the Seattle area. It wasn't Seattle specifically, but it was for Puget Sound Energy, and they have like 1.4 million electric customers. And so if anyone lives on the east side of Washington, of Seattle, I was responsible for your power coming on, coordinating a lot of the logistics of where the crews are going, the materials that are showing up, The other thing I was responsible for was all the text messages and communication that went out. And that was a hard thing to do with the linemen, to get them on board with communicating ETRs. And
Totally.
I got a lot of hate for that. But it was some of the hardest and most rewarding work that I've ever done, doing those night shifts. And
I worked a lot of those storms. We come down from BC.
really,
And yeah, worked probably probably a dozen storms in Seattle, Puget Sound energy area of operations all around there. And they were some of the most gnarliest
yep.
storm calls, man, just because like it's like a jungle, right?
Mhm.
It's that rainforest kind of like we not only like the heavy wind, but the heavy, like you get a snowfall, a random snowfall when the leaves are still on the trees. It just wrecks everything.
Yeah, the ice storms that come through, those were the worst because the snow froze. So there was the initial snow, and that knocked everybody out. The snow stayed on because there were still leaves, and then the ice froze, which toppled everything. So it was like a double storm. I think in that one we had like, at peak we had like 700,000 customers out, which is like 50% of the customer base. And so I didn't know this about the Pacific Northwest region, that we were like the biggest storm center, because it was every other weekend, 30, 50, 100,000 customers out. We were essentially rebuilding half the system every single
Every
year.
weekend.
Like, it was like the system is like brand new. It's just that the trees and the weather come in, and the soil conditions.
We
and
felt
everything.
bad for people, but we loved it. It was
I
like,
mean, you got
like
you
it
got
starts
paid.
right about now, right? It
does.
starts like September right through to like November, beginning December.
Yeah.
Is usually the heavy like.
Yeah, and so like that was some of the most fun work, and part of the work that I did was to make improvements to how we operated, how we came in, how we communicate with customers, estimated times of restoration, global ETRs. Like that was a lot of the work that I did, and that was some of the most challenging actually, because when you're dealing with a union and when you're dealing with people that have done things a certain way, it was really hard to get people on board with wanting to communicate about ETRs when they're standing in front of 10 spans down, with a bunch of trees that they got to clear, and they got to keep their crews safe. And that was where it was like a big challenge to try to bridge the gap in communication between what was going on in the field with like the customer experience. But that's something that I've always been passionate about, and actually have taken into my kind of my real estate journey with, doing short-term rentals and hotels and stuff. So
Sick. Okay, before I ask you questions about why you left, what did you really love about it? So anything other than what we're talking
well, here's what I'll say specifically about the linemen, the wiremen, the relay techs. I love those men and women. They were like brothers and sisters to me. They had some of the biggest hearts that I've ever seen and I've ever experienced. They were fathers, brothers, sisters, mothers. They all were working so hard for their families and for a better life, but they were trading time for money. I saw the dedication, the call outs, the overnights, the storm duties, the random requests from stupid engineers, right? But I saw the disappointment, and I saw the anger and the frustration with what I believe to be a life that they were disappointed in, that was supposed to be better, right? I don't know if they would verbally communicate this, what I'm saying right now, but what I saw in them was, I have to do this. I'm so committed to this because it's my source of income, and I have a way to make more through overtime and that sort of thing. But they're trapped by the pension. They're trapped by their retirement. They spend money like crazy, right? Usually 1, 2, 3 times divorced because of the time commitment. A lot of them are overweight, out of shape, don't take care of themselves because they're so committed to the work, because that's the thing that will make them the money, but that's the only thing that they know. And so I see a lot of like actually fear, anger, resentment, sadness around not being able to live the life that they actually want, and usually filling it with stuff and toys and things, and never getting that momentum to be able to go build and do something else. They may want to be linemen forever. They may not, but I see them with such big hearts, so much love for everyone around them and their families. But then I see a disconnect between loving themselves and going and creating a better future for themselves.
You nailed it. Like I used to be an instructor for a pre-apprenticeship school. in Texas. And these guys would come in, and I love the pre-apps. Like I love that age group. It's like pro most likely there's some older guys in there too, but most likely it's like their first introduction to career or money or just like anything outside of high school. Like they just left high school, they had a couple of jobs maybe, or maybe they were in the military, but they enter this trade and they start seeing like, oh wow, I can really make that for money. And their eyes light up, which they should. It's great. Like a lot of people try to say, don't focus on the money. Don't focus on the money. It's about the trade. It's about the career, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, we got to look at it differently because like kids these days have nonstop money flashed in their face, right? Watches, the cars, like the everything. It's just flashed in their face constantly online, constantly. So you have to meet them where they're at. Where they're at is they care about money now too. It's not just about like, you're not just going to get them with like, hey, come do this really cool trade. That's like, that's a nice feature of it as well. Is like you get to do something that's impactful. It's like exciting. You get to travel, all these things that line work can provide. But we got to talk to them about money because when they come in, I'd have this conversation with them. Like the first thing you're going to want to do, because you're going to walk away from here, you're going to make $120,000 this year. And you're like 22 and you have no responsibilities. You probably still live at home. So what are you going to do with 100 grand? I'm going to go buy a truck and a trailer and a boat. And like, just whoa for a second. Just think about it, Lance. Just like save that up. Let's think about something you can do with that. And I'm not giving financial advice here, but you need to start thinking about other options because you can grow that way quicker. I want to talk about that with you too, like velocity of money.
That's right.
Because they don't even know what that means. They don't understand what that term means. But there's a real opportunity. And I know a lot of young guys listen to this pod, young guys that are just getting into the trade or just found the trade for the first time or just got in. And if they can figure this out now, you'll save yourself a lot.
The great thing about working as an apprentice in your 20s, you get that 120 grand salary, which in the US, I think it's closer to 120 US. So, but you get that 120 grand salary, but you're in your 20s. So guess what? You don't have a ton of dependents. You don't have a ton of debt. You can live at home still, which I honestly recommend. And you can take all that money. And if you just go buy an investment property like an Airbnb, even if it's not an Airbnb, it can be a long-term rental, something that's going to make you a little bit of money. You can flip houses on the side. Like if you put your energy into becoming the best lineman you can, and then your spare time, taking all that money and go and buy an investment property, one a year, at 120 grand as a 20-year-old, as a 22-year-old, you should be able to buy one Airbnb a year. And what you're gonna do is if you want the boat and the truck and the trailer, your Airbnbs or whatever investment properties you buy, they will pay for that. And then you still have your other salary coming in, right? They will pay for the dream home. If you buy all that stuff first, you are now setting yourself back a decade because you've saddled yourself with all this debt and you put cash down and you're reducing your cash flow every month with the debt. And so you actually are putting yourself behind in your wealth building journey. When if all you did was for the first 2 or 3 years, bought an investment property with your salary, with your overtime, whatever you want to use, if you just did that, you would be able to get all your toys much quicker and be able to actually afford them. And you're ahead of the game, and you're building wealth, and you have cash flow. And when you decide you don't want to be a wireman anymore, you can say no if you want to. It creates options. And so I think here's a strategy for linemen in their 20s. Buy a house that you live in. Rent out all the other bedrooms to your friends or whoever. Your mortgage should be zero or you should be making some money. Do that for a year and then go buy another house to live in. Keep that old one, rent it out as a long-term rental or an Airbnb, and then now you've got your second house. You rent out the bedrooms with your friends, and then you do that again and again and again until you decide that you want. In 5 years, you will have 5 houses. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you have roommates, and if you're already gonna have roommates, and if you're gonna move around, why don't you buy the house that you're gonna live in, create cash flow, create appreciation, and in 5 years, you get 5 houses that are generating income for you and appreciating. It happens so much faster than you think. And that's like the simplest, lowest risk way of doing it.
I talk about this guy, this friend of mine lives in Port Angeles, Derek Halsey. I talk about him all the time because I remember when I first met him, he was like mid-20s, and that's exactly what he did. Him and 5 buddies bought a house together, and that was just somewhere to store their shit, right?
Yeah.
But he went in with 5 buddies to do this, to make it happen. They all had a place where they could just store their stuff. Dude wanted to become a lineman, so he became a lineman. Union guy, so he could go all across the country wherever he wanted to go. He's like, I want to be a pilot. So he just like quits line work, saves up one chunk of change to do flight school, quits line work for like whatever. It took him like 3-4 months, bought himself a plane, got his license, bought himself a plane. And then he'd just like fly to different states and go work.
Yeah.
He'd hop in his plane, he'd fly down to California, and he'd just drop into freaking LA, sign the books, go work his job, like, and that's just what he did. He ended up with a bunch of houses, ended up with like storage space, storage rental. He's got a power line company now, but like super successful because he took that option. He's like, let's get together, let's buy something together and just like tough it out.
Yeah. And so one of my missions is to help 1 million people become financially free. And what I believe is that there's just not enough access to this information, and your environment matters, right? And so if you're in an environment of people that spend money on liabilities instead of assets, if you're in an environment of people that like aren't thinking outside the box, that's gonna keep you constrained.
Dig into this a bit, like dig into the mindset before you get into like the real estate. Like what sort of mindset do you need to be successful and to break out and to like do these sorts of things?
Well, you have to trust yourself. You have to know that you're meant for more. You have to know that you are responsible for creating whatever life that you want. You have to know that you can decide to do whatever you want at any given point, right? And so usually what happens is someone tells us what to go do, right? Like there's a path, right? And so we go down that path. But all that time, and this was true for me at the power company, that whole time I worked for the power company, I didn't know this, but I felt different. I felt out of place. I felt like I didn't belong. I thought that's just how it was. But what I learned is that my gut was telling me that I needed to be doing something different. I needed to believe in myself. I needed to step out and start creating a life for myself. And so a lot of times we outsource our confidence to other people, or we stay in environments that keep us small. And so I'm either, like as an apprentice, I'm relying on the foreman to give me guidance and give me instructions. But if the foreman never did anything that was of any type of risk or outside of working for the power company at all, then that's all the information that I'm gonna get. It's like if I go ask my parents, how do I go start a real estate company? They're not gonna know how to do that because they've never done that.
Sure.
And so it's not necessarily even a mindset thing, it's a practical thing, is putting yourself in proximity to the people that are doing the things that you wanna be doing, right? The other piece around that is not just doing what everyone else around you is doing. So when things really started changing for me is when I started creating habits around who I wanted to be, right? There's the 5 daily non-negotiables, the 5 habits that I have. And that established a foundation of confidence and ability for me to go and act on what I wanted to go.
What are those
on.
5 habits?
So the first one is to review your goals every single day, 3 times a day. That means that you have to have goals, right? So you have to have goals and you need to review them 3 times a day. What this does is you will be distracted all day from other people texting you, DMing you, your ex-girlfriend, you're scrolling, the wife, the kids, like everybody and everything in this world is distracting you. If you have your goals on a note, on your phone, on a sticky pad, in your car, in your truck, on your bathroom mirror, and you wrote your goals, and it's in your handwriting and your words, and you look at them 3 times a day, that will immediately snap you back into what you're meant to be doing, right? So your goals need to be your own also. That's another mindset thing, is like, write the goals that you want to do and go bigger and bigger and bigger than you ever thought possible, right? I own a boutique hotel. We're about to well, we're under contract on another ground up development that's going to be like one of the biggest things I've ever done.
Massive.
I have to believe in myself. I have to be a little bit scared
Sure.
too. So reviewing your goals.
Yeah, if they don't scare you, they're not big enough.
If your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. If you can see the path like completely,
Right.
your goals are not big enough.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. And if your
Playing it
goals,
safe.
you're playing it safe,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, as an apprentice going and being a wireman, you know the path. I'm going to do 3 or 4 years of school. I'm going to work this many hours. I'm going to take this many tests. I'm going to get my card, and then that's it, right?
Yeah.
Like that, it's hard work.
That's a good point, because like you would ask people, okay, like an apprentice, what's your goals? Oh, to be a journeyman. It's like, well, you're already on that path. Like the road's already there. It's already built. Like
Yeah.
just carry on, just keep driving.
That's right. And it's hard. It's hard for some people. It's not as hard for others, right?
Yeah.
Like depending on your skill set. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do that. I knew a guy, Andre Pettiferi. He's well known in the industry. He knew he was going to become a director of the company, and that he was going to use the apprenticeship and working in operations as a way to build trust with everybody so that he could then be a better leader, right? So like,
Sure.
have that be a goal. That's fine. Like that's a harder path because you're more dependent on other people. But if your next step, like if you don't know your next step, that's a good thing. But then you need to make the next step smaller and smaller. So like with real estate investing, if you're like, oh, I want to go buy a hotel, you're like, wow, that is way too big. Okay, well, let's back it down. What's literally the next smallest thing I could go do? I could ask ChatGPT. Okay, great, do that. Okay, now what's the next little step? Oh, I could call someone. Yes, great. Most of our dreams and our goals are achieved through literally picking up the phone or sending a text. And that's the other, the second daily non-negotiable is connecting with 5 people every single day. And that's through text, DM. It's like gratitude, but it's also like if you're doing business with anybody,
Sure.
asking questions, or like, hey, I read this and I was thinking of you. That blew my world wide open. I wouldn't be here sitting in this chair with you if I hadn't just started connecting with people 5 times a day. Because what happens is, especially if we're in a situation where we're not happy, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's in work, if we're working 80 hours a week, we're on this cycle of like, you know, get up, go to work 10 hours or more, eat like shit, and then drink, watch Netflix, go to bed, and you live that day on repeat every single day. Like you're in a little isolated silo now. You don't have friends, you don't have family, you're becoming more and more disconnected. What sending proactive texts and DMs does is it reconnects you with the world, and it gets you connected with people that you might not have done. And so if it can be in alignment with your goal, right? So something that I do is I get around people that are doing really big stuff. And so if I'm trying to buy hotels, I'm going to go on Instagram and I'm going to DM every single hotel social media guy out there. And I'm going to comment on their posts. And then I'm going to make some noise, right? I'm going to be like, hey, here I am. I'm trying to do this. I'm not going to be afraid of it. And then that's how I get in all the rooms. And that's how I actually get my goals achieved, right? So those are the first 2. The third one is break a sweat for 45 minutes a day. I lift 5 days a week. That's been probably, I think I say this for every of the 5 habits that I have, but like lifting weights has been like extremely transformational for me. Being in shape and being of a sound mind and a sound body and like lifting heavy things and being strong is really important. And being a wireman in a bucket is not the same as you going to the gym every day and eating the right food and tracking your progress and lifting heavy things and transforming your body. That's the piece of the fitness part is you shouldn't just show up to the gym and like lift weights like you've always lifted before. You should be attempting to transform your body. Like in the next 3 to 6 months, go to the gym, lift weights, eat the right food, and transform your body. And that will bring you the mental clarity and the focus and the determination to go achieve whatever you want, right? In your 20s, you can go to the gym and you can pretty much do whatever you want. When you're in your 30s and you want to like get a 6-pack, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Go try to get a 6-pack.
Dude, I've been trying.
Yeah, right. Go try to get a 6-pack.
I've been trying really hard, too. It's tough in your 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, man. It doesn't get easier, put it that way.
It does not, yeah. And so then the other habit is reading 10 pages every day, not listening to a podcast, not listening to an audiobook, actually sitting down and reading. And I use my Kindle, and it's easier than having like paper books. I do it every single morning. A lot of these you can stack, right? I can read and do my connections. And then like the last one is I post to social media 3 times a day. That one, same thing. It opened my world up. If you have big goals and dreams,
Yeah.
start talking to your camera on Instagram or wherever, TikTok, I don't care, and tell people what you're trying to achieve and watch your life change in the next 90 days. If you talk to the camera 3 times a day and say, this is what I'm trying to do, and this is who I am, this is what I believe, these are my goals, help me out, in 90 days, you will have a brand new network of people. You will be buying real estate. You will be becoming financially free. You will, whatever your goal is, putting yourself out there on social media, doing the connections, getting physically fit, reviewing your goals, and reading every single day will literally change your life in the next 90 days.
Without going too far down the fitness train, what's your biggest recommendation on like what somebody should do to start getting in shape?
I would hire a coach.
100%.
Yeah, I would hire a personal trainer. I mean, they're accountability partner. They're going to push you. They're going to teach you about form. They're going to make you push yourself harder than you would normally do.
Glad you said that, because like that's what I've been telling people as well, is like that was the big difference maker for me. It's like I tried my ass off, kind of, I thought, until I hired somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like, you paid money for it. Now you're accountable to somebody. There's actually somebody checking up on you.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
And you don't need the best person in the world.
No.
Like you need someone that knows a little bit about what they're talking about. And a good piece of advice is if you go to the gym and you see someone that looks good and you want to look like them, go ask them.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not a trainer, but maybe they know somebody. And this is the whole thing with life now. And I think as we get into our 30s, you get to this point where it's like you were promised something. I think this is why a lot of the world is frustrated and divided right now. Is as millennials, where millennials make up the majority of the population now, we were promised something as a society, as salary, be able to afford a home and have kids. And I think that's not true for a lot of people. And whether it's their own doing or society or whatever you want to blame, but that's not happening right now. And so now your ability to go make change is what's going to allow you to actually go create the life that you want and not be dependent on whatever society told you was going to happen, right? And putting yourself out there is the only way that's going to happen, right? So staying in your corner, thinking about it, dreaming about it, that's not how you get things done. Linemen and wiremen should know the only way you get things done is you wake up and you fucking go do it, right? You put on your gear, you get in the bucket and you go do it. That's how you do anything else. That's how you go accomplish anything else. It's like for your body, for your mind, for your dreams, for your family. You wake up and you take a step forward every single day.
People, the part that drives me crazy is the people, especially in this trade, they're so willing to spend their money on things that don't actually help them. And I just say, like, take a bit of that, even just a bit, instead of like buying that shit at the gas station on the way to work, instead of like whatever that investment in shit that doesn't serve you is, what it is, whatever it is, booze, food, whatever, whatever other stuff. Take that, take a portion of it and start putting that back into yourself, because where I'm going with this is like investment into getting into some of those rooms. Sure. Like, yes, start with like the 5 daily non-negotiables, and one of those being like sending reach outs to people, trying to get in those rooms. But some of this means like you might have to pay to get in a room.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your thoughts on paying to get in certain rooms and what that does, what that return can mean back to you?
Well, I'll start out by saying that as an engineer, as a hard worker, growing up in a middle-class family, like going to college, having a job since I was like 12 years old, I was totally against paying for gurus and courses and this and that. And luckily the company paid for my leadership training and they paid for other trainings, and it was all built into the structure, right? Even in the union, like you have required trainings that everyone shows up, they roll their eyes, they don't really want to be there, right? Like how many times we got to look at asbestos and, and learn about asbestos? Oh my gosh, brutal. So there's this mentality and this view of paying people for training because what you've experienced up to this point has not been valuable to you. and you're smart and you're capable. So you've been able to accomplish everything that you've been able to accomplish at this point. So I get it. And that's where I was. I was like, I'm not spending any money. And then I got to a point where I was like, I'm stuck, dude. Like, I don't know how to get out of this. And I've built this business and I'm generating a ton of money, but I am frustrated. My life sucks. My relationship is like not doing very well, all this stuff. And so then I spent my first money on coaching, and it was $8,000 for a year. And within the first week, I was like, oh, this is it. My life has changed. And since then, I've spent a little over $200,000 on coaching and mentorship and guidance. And what I will say is, if you want something, you can accelerate your ability to go get that thing. What it is an accelerator. And it doesn't have to be the perfect person or the perfect group. It doesn't have to be the person that's on social media that's like doing the most. Sometimes all you need is a person in a group. And when you put that money down, you are saying to yourself that you are committing to yourself and your life and your family that you're gonna go improve yourself and you're actually gonna go do something. When you, especially for linemen that love money, when you spend money, you wanna get a return. You wanna see something, right? So, and for me as a real estate investor, to spend money on info, a course or a person just talking to me, instead of going and buying another property, that was really hard for me because I know what I could do over here. I know I could go make more money over here, but I had to stop and I had to say, no, I'm stuck, I'm maxed out, I'm frustrated, I can't do this anymore, I need help doing something different. And so I spent the last 2.5 years just pouring a bunch of money into self-improvement, and I've accelerated my ability to accomplish. The other thing it does, like if you think about all the people that you work with, and I'm talking to you out there, the foreman, the apprentice, and you look around the room and you see the people that you love, and oh, they know relays. Oh, they're really good at this one thing. I'm gonna go to them for wire. I'm gonna go to them for like emergency. I'm gonna go to them for safety stuff. Like there's people around you already that are experts at like one or two things that you go to and you trust. The same thing is true when you get into a community. You're gonna have someone that's teaching, and whatever it is you wanna do. If you wanna buy Airbnbs or hotels, you're gonna pay for access, and then you're immediately welcomed into the group, and you have people that know how to buy, they know how to get you money, they know how to raise money. There's people that have money that will give you money to go buy a property. They know, like, you will have all the resources available to you, and it's just gonna accelerate your ability to go accomplish whatever you want. So one more thing on that. The thing that I hear from people a lot about not wanting to join a community or get into a program is like, oh, well, I need to get my finances in order. I need to I need to keep working on it and then I'll join. That's like saying, before I join a gym or hire a personal trainer, I'm gonna go get into shape.
That's so good.
I'm gonna go get big and strong and muscular, and then I'll go to the gym. That's what it's like. But the thing is that we are in these loops and we're stuck. And literally, like, when you spend money on yourself, the universe responds and you immediately get unstuck. Like, there's just something about spending money on yourself in those communities that helps.
I heard Grant Cardone say a story about Hermosi paying he didn't allude the exact price, but it was, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of dollars to Cardone for like a freaking 50-minute meeting. And he walked in and he needed like 6 minutes
Yep.
just to get an answer to a question that he probably already knew the answer for, but just had to pay that money to like commit to doing it. And that was the trigger. It's like, okay, I paid you this money, whatever. That might be the piece that you need, is just like some quick little answer to, or some little connection with somebody that has a network that you need access to. And that's what, so I just wanted to highlight that because like you're 100% right.
Yeah, I think Alex paid $300,000 for 15 minutes, and you're right, he spent 6 minutes and he walked out. He didn't even use the full 15 minutes. Yeah, and that's Alex, right?
Yeah.
But what I see people who are not in the communities, who are not spending the money, trying to ask all these questions and get all this information. The problem is that the universe and the people, they won't respond to you and give you everything you need because you're not ready to receive it yet. There's something about spending the money that tells everyone around you and it tells yourself that you're ready to receive the information. You've finally come to this point where you're like, okay, I need help, I need to do this. And, you know, like if you're gonna spend 6 grand on a community to go buy real estate, that community, you should make $100,000 or more, right? Within like the first year is what I would say, right? Through buying real estate or partnering with people or whatever it is, right? So like that's what I try to do. If people come into my world, I'm gonna pour so much value into them, and I'm gonna make sure you buy the right real estate, and I'm gonna make sure you don't waste your time, and you know, whatever you spend to get in, you're gonna get back tenfold or more, 100-fold. So like, and that's what you should be trying to do. You shouldn't be trying to take from people, like, but there's something that happens when you spend the money, and sometimes it literally is just that one little piece of information. So
Amazing. Okay, let's get into real estate.
yeah.
Why right now, especially in the United States, because I want to hit this one home, why is it such a good time for a W-2 employee to invest in real estate?
Oh my gosh. So this is like my message to the world, especially in the US, because in Canada it's not the same, but in the United States, every person with a regular job, linemen, wiremen, mechanics, plumbers, engineers, anyone that gets a paycheck from their company, all they need to do to become wealthy is go buy an Airbnb. And the reason is because the only way that you can save on taxes as a regular employee with a W-2 job is by buying a short-term rental or an Airbnb. And so what I want you to do, everyone out there, I want you to look at the piece of paper that tells you what you pay in taxes every year on your paycheck. So you get something every month, year to date, paid in taxes. I want you to look at that number, and I want you to know that if all you did was buy one Airbnb, that you would get that amount back as a check from the government every single year for the next 5 years. And you shouldn't be investing just for taxes, but this is something that's very special and very unique, only with Airbnbs or hotels and storage, but the average American and the average Canadian will probably only buy like an Airbnb, and they might not get it at hotels. It's not about the money that you make, it's about the money that you keep. And when I hear that, I think, oh, I've got a big tax bill. If your apprentice or your wireman makes 120 grand a year, they're probably spending 20 to 30 grand in taxes. You can take that 20 to 30 grand and turn it into an Airbnb, and you get that money back for 5 years. And then you can do it again, and you can do it again. And so I've spent the last 6 years investing in short-term rentals and in boutique hotels. I've made more money than I've ever made, and I've paid almost zero in taxes every single year.
It's unreal because like I want to drive this home for the linemen out there because linemen will make, 100 to 600 plus a year, everywhere in between. And like we were talking about before, a lot of that gets blown or they just don't know what to do with it when they got it. If you want to create long-term wealth, this might be an option for you. Imagine saving your taxes. Imagine keeping that 600, not paying 300, 400,000 in taxes.
The reason that this is so important is because you could buy one property. And if you're making 600 grand a year, you'd qualify for a $2 million, $3 million property. And you could have your dream lakefront house that you rent out on Airbnb, and you literally get a $200,000 to $300,000 check from the government for 5 years because all you did was buy a property. So you're getting your money back, or you're not paying taxes at all, and you have your dream lake house that is generating cash flow and it's appreciating at the same time. This is how I was able to quit corporate, was this specific strategy, because I took all my money, I delayed gratification, I wasn't buying clothes, I wasn't eating out, I basically stopped. When I learned this, when I figured out this thing, they call it the short-term rental loophole. It's not a loophole, it's just the rules. When I figured this out, this is the only thing as a W-2 employee that they give you for tax benefits. Your 401k is not a tax break. Like your IRA is not a tax break. Your mortgage interest, that's not a tax break. This rule, the short-term rental loophole, is the only thing that you have available to you that will allow you to pay $0 in taxes as long as you're willing to go buy an Airbnb and set it up and run it. So whatever income level you're at, it doesn't matter. You could be 100K, you can be at 600K, and you can apply this across the board. You can go convert your tax bill into a cash flowing property that appreciates over time. And you can create memories and you can like create experiences for people and you can be fulfilled. And then you have options, right? You can generate enough cash flow and appreciation to then create the momentum and the platform for you to be able to do whatever you want to do.
So, not financial advice. Just here's an example of somebody who did something to make this happen for themselves. What was your way
Into what?
into real estate? Like you,
Hmm.
you had to get out of your 401k, right? Cash in your 401k.
So yeah, great question. So we started by renting our spare bedroom out on Airbnb. This is like 2015. My wife and I put our spare bedroom up. We rented it for like 35 bucks a night. So that was the very beginning of like my wife and I being like, we got to try to cover our mortgage. We were always like kind of trying to figure out other ways to like make money. And instead of like increasing our salary, we're like, let's rent our spare bedroom out on Airbnb. It was early days. We met a lot of people. We learned everything we needed to know. So then when I quit, because I was burned out, my wife and I lived in our van for like 6 months. And we decided we wanted to do this full time. We wanted to invest in Airbnbs. And so we ended up starting consulting. Basically, we went back to work because I realized my highest leverage activity was going to go be to work, but I was working for a higher rate. I was consulting back with the power company. And so I was basically doing the same job, but for 3 times the rate.
Trading time for money.
I was still trading time for money, but I knew the formula now of like, take all that money and go buy property. And then you get the tax benefits and the cash flow and the appreciation. And so there was 2 things that I did. Before we quit, we got a home equity line of credit on our house. We used that to buy 3 properties, down payment, all that. And then we used cash to do the furnishing renovations. The other thing that we did is we took our 401k, made it self-directed after we left. And you can still do this even if it's not self-directed, but I cashed out my 401k and I bought 3 properties with it. Your 401k is not going to make you the same amount of money as if you invest in real estate for a few different reasons. And people are afraid to cash out their 401k because they have to pay the fee. And that immediately will stop them. But that's an excuse because they haven't actually done the math on why it's better to cash out your 401k, pay the fee, and go put it into an Airbnb, right? So if I need 100 grand and I've got it sitting in my 401k, I can take out 110, I pay 11 grand in fees, which whatever, but I go buy a $500,000 house and then I pay 0 in taxes. So if my tax bill is 100 grand, I took the 100 grand out of my 401k, I pay 0 in taxes, and now I have cash flow and appreciation. And all I did was pay the $11,000 fee, right? So people don't.
It's the cost of doing business.
It's a cost of doing business, exactly. It's like, okay, if it's a $500,000 house, but I paid $11,000 in fees, okay, it's a $511,000 house. Like people get so hung up on the rules or what you're supposed to do. And then the other reason why that works to cash out your 401k and buy real estate with it is because of one of my most favorite things about real estate is leverage. It's debt. So the reason real estate is so valuable to people is because you can put down a fraction of the price, but you get the whole asset, right? So you need to get debt, right? And you have to have cash flow to cover that debt. But when you buy stock or you buy 401k, when you put $100 into a $100 stock, you get 1 unit. With real estate, I get 5 units. I put that same $100 in and I get 5 units because of debt, right? I'm putting 20% down, but I get 100% of the asset. And where that comes into play, why that's so valuable is now when it appreciates, it doesn't appreciate on that 20% that I put down, right? If I put 100 grand down and the price of the home goes up, it's not on the $100,000 I put down, it's on the $500,000 I put down. So as the value goes up, it goes up on the entire amount of the asset, right? It's not just what I put down. So in stock, I buy 1 unit, it goes up $1, it's $1 on my 1 unit. I buy a house for 1 unit, it's worth 5 units, and it goes up in price. Now I've just like 5x my return, right? So I know it's a little bit complex, but because of leverage, so if I put $0 down, if I put $0 down on a house and it doubled in price, that's an infinite return. If I put $1 down and it doubled in price, that's $500,000 in this example. I put $1 down and I made 500 grand on $1, right? So people worry about cash flow. They're like, oh, cash flow, cash flow. That will allow you to sort of quit your job if that's what you want to do. But the real money is made when you put as little down on a property as you can and you make it worth as much as you can. Because then that's where the appreciation and the value comes from.
So that's what you should be like. So walk us through what you should be looking for in a property then. Like when you're going to buy, like you're not just looking like for cash flow, because that's where everyone goes right away. Oh, what do you cash flow in a month? It's like, well, maybe I don't need to cash flow like we were talking about earlier. It's like, okay, I'm still working a good job. It makes all the money I need to make. Like this thing might not need to cash flow, but maybe I just dump a little bit into it for some appreciation. Like walk through that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the model that I've followed is go into the highest value neighborhood that you can. So we all know the neighborhoods in our areas that are like, I want to live there. I want to buy there. This is the best neighborhood. All the richest people live there, right? You either want that neighborhood or some adjoining neighborhoods because you want to buy the fixer-upper. Like just being real, if you want to create a ton of value, you need to go do a little bit of work. You don't want to like replace foundation and like do a ton of work, but you want to go find something, just as an example, that it's a $2 million neighborhood. You know, the comps of the homes are like $2 million. You want to find the $1 million house because then every dollar that you put into it, you should be getting $3 out. So that's sort of the rule that I like to look for. There's a house in Tucson that we bought. We paid $835,000 for it, which is very expensive for Tucson. But because of the neighborhood, the comps in that neighborhood are 1.4 million. So we said, okay, well, how do we get to 1.4 million? We spent 250 grand and we made it worth 1.4 million. So we spent 250 to get 300K. So we added a pool. Like that was a big project. We did a lot of work, but
that's the idea.
That's the idea. You want to go find high value real estate that needs a little bit of work. And so you're not just buying these $300,000 houses in Kansas City.
If I can make this house look like this one,
That's right.
you know, fraction of the cost.
That's right.
You know, it'll be worth that.
Exactly. Because what do you want? Do you want $1,000 in cash flow a month, or do you want to create $300,000 in equity in a property? That's what I'm talking about. So
what do you do with that when so you buy that house, you create that equity? What do you do now?
you refinance. So the thing that people don't understand is, and this is just the Burr method. Basically what I'm describing is the Burr method, but I like to get a little bit more detailed with it to buy in the right neighborhoods. And so now on that particular property, we've only got $600,000 of debt on that property. It's worth 1.4 million. So what is that? $800,000 of equity that we can pull out. And so we're gonna go refinance. We'll figure out how much we wanna pull out of it, but now we get a big chunk of cash. So let's say we pull $500,000 out of it. Because of leverage, our payment will only go up a little bit. So we're still gonna cash flow. We're gonna cash flow a little bit less. Let's say we lose $1,500 a month in cash flow. What is that times 12? That's 15 grand. We lose 15 grand a year, but I just got $500,000 in cash, tax-free, because it's debt, it's a refinance. Tax-free $500,000. I did the work, right? There was work involved. Now I take that $500,000. Because of leverage, how much property can I buy with $500,000? I can buy $2.5 million worth of property based on a 20% down payment. So I'm gonna go take that $500,000 and I'm probably gonna go buy a hotel or something, right? But that's where the wealth is made, is adding value, creating value. It's not in the cash flow. It's not in the cash flow. You need cash flow to pay the bills, but when you make improvements to a property, you increase the equity on the total value, and then you go buy something bigger and you add more value. Like, I know a guy in Huntington Beach, he bought something for like 2 million and he made it worth 9 million. And he raised money and he did stuff. Like, you can get there faster than you think. Sure. And it's about knowing the right neighborhoods and the right places to invest. And then the other thing that I'll say is, I've talked a little bit about short-term rentals and hotels. For most people that are working their job, go buy an Airbnb, make improvements to it, own it for 5 years, take all the tax benefits, and then decide what you want to do with it. The next level is really commercial real estate, hotels, storage, multifamily. I don't love multifamily, like apartment buildings. I think there's not as many levers that you can pull, but with hotels and storage, the reason they're so valuable, like, I know there's this emotion behind hotels, like, oh, I want to create this incredible thing, which is what I'm going to go do. But
yeah,
the money makes sense. And the way the money works is, again, through increasing the value, but it's different. So if your Airbnb can make $1 million a year, it's still just worth what it's worth, right? The income that you bring in on the Airbnb doesn't make the house worth any more
Sure.
because of just the comps in the area. That's just how it works.
Gotcha.
With hotels, if you increase the revenue and you decrease expenses, like you come in, you just dress it up a little bit, you have better photos, you run it better, your reviews go up. And if you increase the income on that, you now increase the value. And so if I can generate an extra $50,000 in bottom line revenue for the property, that's on average about $500,000 in value that I've just added to the value of the property. And that's all because of leverage, that's all yours to keep.
And there's some ways right now, like I've heard you and Rich talk about this too, just like the amount of baby boomers retiring, maybe own some of these hotels, looking at getting out of them. And we're talking like these hotels you're talking about are like what, 10 to 20 keys, like not massive, massive big hotels. And you can do things like, add different marketing, get them even on like booking sites that not just like their direct booking site, like their website.
Yeah, a lot of people
or
aren't on Expedia
But,
or Booking.com.
like adding some tech, like going keyless,
Yep. Yeah, so the great thing about hotels and a lot of storage is like these couples, like, my wife and I 30 years ago
Yeah.
bought a hotel, and that was the only thing they did. They bought one hotel, they've been running it. It's a Country Bear Jamboree, right? Like, but it's in a great location, it's still in good condition, and now it's like, oh, we can come in and we don't even have to really do anything. Maybe we just paint it or like maybe change out some furnishings. But the things that you said are really valuable. Like they might not be in Expedia and hotels.com. And so their marketing is not great. Their photos are not great. They only have check-in hours between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And instead of doing a keyless check-in, there's no tech, there's no pricing strategy. So you don't even have to come into a hotel and really like revamp it. You can just improve operations
Just
and
to get
marketing.
started.
Exactly, just to get started, which is great because a lot of times if you are going to do renovations, you need to, you get permits and stuff, and that might take a little bit. But if you can just improve operations, and the great thing about like today's technology is it can just be you as an individual or like a couple or just a couple people that can run like a 20 to 40 key hotel, right? You could do it on your own, or you could go hire a property manager and do that too. And then if you do all those things that we just described and you increase revenue and decrease expenses, maybe there was a manager living on site and you don't need a manager living there anymore. Like they don't want to live there, and you can convert the manager's unit into 1 or 2 extra rooms. You've just increased the revenue, which
That's massive too.
it's massive because it doesn't.
And that's
really,
a real thing. That's a real thing because some of those suites are bigger suites too.
They're like houses sometimes. Like there was one I think that Rich did. It was like 1,800 square feet and like 3 bedrooms. So that's 3 rooms that usually can do about 50 grand each without adding any expenses. So you just added 50 to 150 grand of revenue
A year.
which is $500 to $1.5 million in value in an average market, and the cash flow that goes along with that. So the thing with hotels is you have to skill up. Like you have to level up a little bit. Like, yes, it's the same as short-term rentals, but you usually need to partner with somebody just to do the amount of work, especially on the first one. A lot of times you need to raise money, unless you've got your 401k or your pension and you're willing to just dump it all into a hotel. There's different things you need to learn, but in reality, like the ability to generate massive amounts of value in hotels and storage, like is sort of unmatched out there right now.
I want to back up for a sec to the short-term rentals you purchased first. You talked about buying 5 or 6, like almost within a few years, right? How are you financing these? Like you talked about like, oh, I did this and this to get the down payment, but what was the rest of the financing look like?
Yeah, great question, which is also why having your job and doing this and buying short-term rentals is one of the best things that you can do. Having your job is one of the greatest pieces of leverage that you can have because banks love people with regular jobs. And so if you can qualify, and there's 2 main types of loans that you can use, 3 main types of loans that you can use. And this is how we did it. So we essentially had enough income where we would qualify for vacation home loan for the first one. So it's like, oh, this is our vacation home, 10, 15% down. So that's what I always recommend for people on the first one. Go use a vacation home loan because you're going to put less down and you can qualify as conventional. Then there's just the traditional investment loans that you got to put 20 to 25% down, and they look at your debt to income. And if you did well on the first one and it's making money, they will give you a conventional loan on the next one. And then at some point, you may need to use what's called a DSCR loan, and that's a debt service credit ratio, right? Yeah. All that means is they look at the property itself to see if it's going to be able to generate the income, and then they'll lend to you if they think it's going to perform, right? So on an Airbnb, they do this for Airbnbs and long-term rentals. They look, okay, it's a $500,000 house. The comps say it's going to make 120 grand. Cool, you're good to go, right? And so those are usually a little bit more expensive in the rate and like the closing costs.
Because there's a little more risk.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of like private money a little bit. It's not like from Wells Fargo. Like I recommend do not go to Wells Fargo. Don't go to Chase. Don't go to any of those banks. Go to your local credit union. Go find the Airbnb DSCR lenders. I can't think of them off the top of my head. There's also lenders like Washington Federal that are what's called a portfolio lender. And that means that they don't sell their loans to Fannie and Freddie. And so they can kind of bend the rules and create their own rules around. So if they like you, then they're going to lend to you. And so that's the other piece of this is if you, like lending is so important. Get all of your shit together. Like get your books together. Like don't mingle like property finances with personal finances. Have separate bank accounts. You don't need to put everything in an LLC, but like have separate bank accounts for everything. Use Relay Financial as your banking platform. And then
That was the next question. Like, so walk through this, like nail down on this, how you structure this, because like, is it beneficial for people to start an LLC for each property? Or are you even in that mode right now? Like, when do you switch to that?
Yeah, I did from the very beginning. And honestly, I think it's one of the reasons that I was able to get as much lending as I was, right? So we increased our income. It's a sales job. When you get to a certain point, when you're buying 2 houses a year and like you're trying to get traditional lending from banks on it, you have to like sell yourself. And you're going to get a bunch of no's, but you need to find the people that are willing to work with you. And so the way that I helped myself do that was I did create LLCs for each property. We have a holding company that owns essentially everything. So the holdco owns the LLCs of each, like our personal names are not attached to the LLCs. And then we file a tax return. That's all of that stuff on one. We have another company that we file a tax return, and then it all goes to our personal. At a minimum, what I would recommend doing is have separate bank accounts. I would start an LLC for each, get an EIN from the IRS that literally takes 2 minutes, and open up a business bank account. And I recommend Relay Financial because they make it very, very easy. And all the money for all the properties will be under a business bank account, separate business bank accounts. And it'll be named, and all the money goes to each of the business bank accounts and doesn't touch each other. And then you have a bookkeeper, or you can do it yourself, or just use the Relay's built-in stuff, so that when you go to a bank, you look really professional. You don't have your Chase account where you're spending money on DoorDash, and you've got like paying housekeepers out of it, right?
Right.
So no cash. Like try to avoid using cash at all possible, or keep receipts. Looking presentable on paper is really important. Like it's not as important on your first one, but the sooner that you get there, the better, because they're going to trust you. They know that you're serious. When they email you and ask you for your tax returns or your financial records, email them back in an hour with your documents, and they're gonna be like, oh shit, like this guy's serious, right?
Do you move that first one or second one eventually into its own business, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can do a quick claim. A lot of people are scared to do that because they say that the loan will get called, but that's just sort of a rumor. Don't take my advice. Like they will, or they can call the loan if you do a quick claim. So you can get the loans in your name, and people are afraid to do that. You can get loans in your personal name and still have the LLC. That's fine. It's more about putting all the money into a business bank account under the LLC, and then you can still own the mortgage or be responsible for the mortgage. With DSCR loans, you can close in a company name. So you create the company before you close, and you close in the LLC name. That's the cleanest and best, is when it's all done that way.
Cool. Okay. Lots of people say short-term rentals, Airbnbs, dead, dying. You know, you've heard this. Why is it not dying? And if it's not dying, what do you really got to pay attention to? And how do you set yourself up best for success to not just go with the wayside?
It's not dying, it's just that there was a bunch of people that didn't care that got into it. They saw it as a money grab, and so they bought the same property that everybody was buying. Like, if you go down to Scottsdale, it's the same 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with the mural on the concrete block wall, the pink flamingos, like, everybody bought that same asset, and they all put the same furniture, and they took the same photos, and it's been commoditized. The way that you win today, there's 3 ways to win at Airbnb today. 1, create something truly unique. There's someone doing a potato, there's tree houses, there's these really unique stuff that you just can't get anywhere else. The second way, this will be around forever, is the larger houses that can fit 16, 20, 25 people, the family reunion house, right? Maybe you're on a little bit of land, you're a little bit further out of town, and you've got the putt-putt, you've got the pool, you've got the outdoor movie, movie theater, the projector, you've got some cold plunges, sauna. Being able to fit 20 to 25 people,
Mm.
even at $2,500 a night, is still a value for that family.
Right. If you're
And
splitting it up between 3, 4, 5 families, it's okay.
exactly, right? So yeah, 5 families is $500 a night for the whole family, right? And if it's a family reunion, and the other thing that people do is they compete on price. And so when you compete on prices, it's a race to the bottom. You need to compete on experience, right? So these bigger houses, even if you don't do a Sleep 20 house, and that's the third way to continue to win at Airbnb, is you just knock it out of the park on a core product, meaning a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or 4-3, and you just create the most incredible design, timeless, like, experience. You have the right amenities for the right people that are coming into that market. Your photos are excellent, and then you deliver on the guest experience. Your photos are going to be the most important part. People still travel and stay in Airbnbs. You have to create something that you would want to stay in, though. Like, you can't just buy Wayfair furniture. You can't just, like, do what everyone else is doing. It's a more active business than people realize. So revenue management, rate management, updating the photos. Like, there's people that will change the photos as the seasons, change, right? So if they know that people are booking for winter, they're going to put up winter photos. If they know they're booking for summer photos. So understanding that, like, you have to be in the hospitality business, you have to be in the design business. You don't necessarily need to know those things. There's so many people out there that can help you design this, but if you find the right property, you can generate $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in top line revenue, and then the expense ratio should be around 50%. So you should be taking home half of whatever the top line revenue is. You need to be buying something. This is what we were talking about earlier, velocity of money. You need to be buying something that whatever work you put into it, you're going to be increasing the value of the property too, right? Because if you buy something and you spend all this money and you put all these amenities and nobody shows up, you need to be able to sell it for a profit, right? So that's sort of the plan B. Like, real estate fundamentals still exist. Like, making improvements to properties, like, you need to make sure that what you're doing, like, I see people putting lazy rivers in the back of homes. I don't know how that's ever gonna pencil out when they go to sell the property, and maybe they don't care. Maybe it's a tax play and a cash flow play.
Right.
I don't know, but, like, putting a lazy river in the back of a property in a normal neighborhood, it seems like you're never gonna get your money out of it.
Yeah.
So, like,
There's one extreme. Yeah.
yes, and so my wife and I are very, like, we push the envelope, but we don't follow the trends. We create timeless designs. We focus on privacy. We focus on peace. Like, figure out who your avatar is and just go all in.
What are some of those amenities?
Well, sauna, cold plunge, fire pit, string lights. We focus a lot on outdoor space and how you can interact in the outdoors, right? We love our properties where you have water views, beach access. The fire pit is creating the moment for the family. I'm a big sauna cold plunge guy. Like, it helped me, like, through my journey of, like, healing and becoming who I am. And I just want to give that to people. We also just design things really intentionally so that when you're in bed and you roll over, you're like, oh shit, where am I? Even just like having a bedside USB charger. Like, we're very thoughtful about how you enter a space, how you leave a space. when you approach the house, like how you feel approaching when you walk in, what are you looking at? Like at one of our houses that we ended up selling it, it was in Cleveland. Something that always bugged me was like when you walk in, you're looking like right at the bathroom. But I was like, okay, that means we need to make everything so you're not looking at the bathroom, your eye goes to there. And so like I always think about how do you evoke emotions? From the very first time they look at your listing on Airbnb or VRBO, what emotion are you evoking? What longing, what desire, what excitement are you creating for them? What fun? Like whatever that emotion is, like dial that into the max through your photos, through your amenities, and then you need to follow through on that promise pretty much at every single point along the journey.
I saw somebody as well that it was on a podcast, but and this was for a different sort of a space where there was like multiple units on one property that they were building out, and they were all unique spaces, but they created social media accounts specifically for those properties. And so I wanted your take on that. And is there value in that for just a single Airbnb, or you wouldn't do that for just an Airbnb? You'd do that for more like a bigger property like you're expanding on now?
So usually you cannot afford to do marketing for like a single property. If you're one of those 3-2s in Scottsdale, you're gonna have to do something that's gonna differentiate yourself to try to go create views and become viral on TikTok or Instagram. The cool thing is that Instagram and TikTok are becoming the direct booking platforms for Airbnbs and hotels. And so instead of Expedia and Booking.com and Hotels.com, everyone is searching and now booking through TikTok and Instagram. TikTok actually just created TikTok Go, which is specifically for that.
Oh, no kidding.
And so now you can book through TikTok, which is a direct booking link. And so I recommend using ChatGPT, ask it to be your chief marketing officer for your property, and give you a marketing plan and a social media plan and if you think you're like an average house, like if there's nothing that's like distinguishable about your property, like figure out how to make something that's distinguishable, even one thing, and then ask ChatGPT to create a marketing plan that leverages that thing so that you will go viral on social media. Because the biggest moneymaker is in you owning your customers. And so right now, Airbnb and VRBO own your guests. They own you, they own the platform. And it's fine, you get free marketing and you can do really well. Everything's gonna be transitioning over to direct booking and being able to manage your guests internally, email lists. Like running an Airbnb is a real business, right? You don't have to do all this stuff, but if you create one reel, one short form clip on TikTok or Instagram that can get 1 million views, you will immediately drive like tens of thousands
That was
of
the thing
dollars
they
in direct
sold.
bookings.
They sold one of these properties, and 50% of like the reason the buyers bought the property was because of the social media accounts that went with it and the value created in that. They had like 150,000 Instagram followers, which I think they even said that they were completely off of like VRBO now, and they were solely booking just through their own social media,
Yeah.
and it created such value in,
Yeah,
the
so
business.
I think you might be talking about Isaac French in Live Oak Lake. So Isaac French, he built Live Oak Lake for like $2.3 million. It was 7 houses on a lake in Waco, outside of Waco, Texas. And his first day of launching on Airbnb kicked him off the platform.
that's one.
And so he had to immediately switch to a direct booking strategy and viral content creation, which he was able to do. And they were like 50% booked within the first week on just direct bookings. And then that just kept increasing and increasing because of the content strategy. And he hired micro influencers, for 500 or 900 bucks a pop. And then that was how they were creating viral content to keep people coming back and booking. And then he sold that property for like $7.3 million. And a decent chunk of that sale price was because of the social media following that he had. So in commercial real estate, we have something that's called a cap rate. And that's how I was doing the math. If my cap rate is 10%, but I have a social media following that is generating direct bookings, my cap rate might be compressed down to 9%, which means it's worth more because I have a stronger asset, I have a stronger following, I have something special. I'm not just another box on a piece of concrete,
Amazing.
right? And so your ability to create something unique and share it with the world and shout it from the rooftops and like create marketing and do that, like, don't let this scare you. If you're listening, it's like, oh man, I'm not a social media guy. Like, the first step is to just go get yourself a property that's going to make you money.
No, and again, like for the audience, so there's this big community within the line world. So linemen typically, like, there's a lot of female linemen out there now as well, which is amazing. But there's a lot of linemen, and their families move with them. They call them tramp linemen, right? They're just going around from big transmission project to big transmission project, and the family usually moves with them, and they'll just live in these big massive travel trailers or whatever units they have, but they'll travel around the country. So a lot of the times their wives start like small businesses out of the travel trailer, making like merch. They'll start a social media account, so they're already getting good at social media, and they'll start making merch. They'll start make t-shirts, hats, like things like that, and run this small business while the guy's out working on the line. They'll run this small business, and they build it up to something amazing. So they have the skills. So what I'm trying to like show them is like, maybe there's some other options too, because they already have all these skill sets. Like, they're making great social content. They're looking for a place to park their money, looking for a place to save on taxes, things like that. This might be another option for you.
Yeah, merch is not gonna make you wealthy unless you go all in, and I appreciate the hustle. If they're going around from city to city in a trailer and they're down to do that type of work, go buy a house in every city that you are traveling to, and maybe you live in it and you renovate it, and then you rent it out on Airbnb when you're done. But that would be my advice: is every city that you go to, go find the best neighborhoods, go buy the house in the best neighborhood. Maybe it's your primary. Remember, you can buy a primary residence every year if your intention is to live in that primary residence. So if you're tramping around and you're like, yep, we are living here, and that's what you're doing, then you can put as little as like 3.5% down on this primary residence. You live there, you fix it up, you've increased the value. When you leave town, you put it on Airbnb. Like, that to me is a low risk, solid formula of creating wealth. And then if, the husband or the wife, whoever's doing the work, is, making 600 grand a year, if you buy the right asset, you get $300,000 back in taxes every single year for doing that. Like, your merch company or your Etsy shop is not doing that. Like, I love you and I love that you're trying, but like, that's why I'm out here talking about this stuff, is because there is a better way, there's a faster way, there's a more efficient way, there's a way to level up, as long as you're willing to take on some debt and do a little bit of work, but it fucking works.
Yeah, 1,000%. I love that you said that, because like, it's so true. They have such amazing skills. I see them just grinding, and they do so well at it. But the same amount or little more effort put into like something like this could like make them so much more.
Yeah. And one of the downsides of like living out in like the Midwest or rural parts of the country is you don't have access to, people like me who are like, come on, let's go buy real estate. Like, there are definitely people in these small towns that are doing that because somebody owns the real estate, but I just feel like there's less access. And then a lot of times people are scared to step out and do something different, or they just don't know, or they don't feel deserving of it, right? And they haven't seen it be done, and they haven't seen a quote unquote normal person go do it, right? They've seen someone that's already owned a bunch of real estate, and oh, they make money, they own a bunch of stuff, but they don't have the confidence or belief in themselves that they can go do this. And so my mission is like to help all of those people, especially ones that are stuck out in the Midwest or rural parts of the country where they don't have anybody. It's all farmers or rail workers or linemen or whoever, that they're going to trading their time for money, and they don't know that there's a better, faster, more efficient way. And you can have access to all the same things that all the wealthy people do. And I'm here to teach that. And I want to give people access to that, because my belief is that we are all creators. We're all meant to create. We're all meant to build. We're all meant to live our best life and like show people how to do that. And I don't think it has to be working the same job for 40 years just because you want a pension.
100%, man. That was that was me. My uncles, like, God bless them, they did well for them. My uncles worked in this, got 18 years old, got a job at a sawmill, and they became millwrights or electricians, or they did fantastic, raised families, good retirements, whatever. But they worked at those places for 45, 50 years. And that's never been like my thing
Yeah. And,
at
and,
all.
and let me guess, they had to put in for their PTO.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they never got to take a bunch of family vacations, and they missed birthdays, and they missed baseball games, and they missed everything because they were working overtime,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing that you don't realize about the overtime. Yeah, you're making more money, but you're literally losing your time,
Yeah.
and you're losing your energy, right? Like 100K, 120K is like nothing nowadays. Like, I'm sorry if you're out there listening, you're like, yeah, I just got my 120K job. It is nothing these days. And there's so much money out there. There's so much more for you out there. And so you're working your ass off for 100 to 200K. If you're making 600, cool. Like, keep doing that, but go buy short-term rentals and go save on taxes. But like, a six-figure salary in the hundreds is nothing nowadays, even in the Midwest, because usually it comes with strings attached. And usually that means you don't get to see your family. Usually that means you're exhausted and you're tired and you're not taking care of yourself and you can't get the motivation. And all you can do is get up to go to work, and you're pumping yourself full of caffeine and anything else that you can find to make yourself feel better,
Yeah.
right? Like, I feel for these people that are getting up and working so hard every single day, and they keep the country running. They keep things moving. They keep the lights on. They keep the food coming. They do the hard work and the hard labor, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it for 40 years.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. What are the couple more questions? What are like the 3 to 5 markets that you're looking at around the country for maybe go through STRs and like hotels?
Yeah, because usually, or nowadays, the markets where you want to buy short-term rentals might be different than the markets where you want to buy boutique hotels. Because, we talked about Scottsdale. Scottsdale is a very Airbnb friendly area, and you wouldn't want to buy a boutique hotel there necessarily because there's so many short-term rentals and there's so many other hotels. A boutique hotel might not do as well, right? Versus coastal California, most people say don't invest in California, blue state, like all the hype, like also like ignore the media, like go invest where you want. But coastal California hotels are going to crush because there's more regulations on Airbnbs, and people love traveling to California, right? And so even if you find a smaller town or like whatever, like, go buy hotels in places where people travel, right? So especially if you're doing your first one, go to an area where there's already demand. You don't want to be someone that's like trying to create demand necessarily. You can, and that's what Isaac French did with Live Oak Lake out in Waco, Texas, but he built something absolutely incredible. So short-term rentals, I actually also like markets that are already regulated. So if you go to a market like Michigan, where we have a house that got shut down, we're partners on a house that got shut down out there because they didn't establish regulations. And then the state said, we're pushing it down to all the cities and counties. And all the cities and counties came in and said, no short-term rentals. If you're in a market like San Diego or where we own property up in the San Juan Islands, there's already regulations, there's already permits. Go get yourself a permit. Like, do the legwork, go buy a place that already has the permit, or you can go get one because they're not going to come in and shut you down, and it creates scarcity. So if there's regulations, it's actually good for you if you're willing to do a little bit of the work. So that's something to consider. The other thing is people really want nature and outdoors. So if you can find places just outside of the city or just outside, maybe unincorporated, it's close enough to the airport, close enough to like where all the action is happening, but you create a different experience.
Gotcha.
So I like just outside of city limits or even secondary cities. Like, we buy a lot in Tucson. We love Tucson. It's not going to generate maybe as much revenue as like a Scottsdale property if done right, but we've done really, really well there, and we cater to people that come to Tucson for a specific reason. But secondary markets outside of major metros, where you can get a permit or there's not, you're not at risk of getting shut down. So,
Is there somewhere else you're looking at right now? As far as
worldly,
state or city or?
um, I've been focused on hotels. So
Mm.
California, we have the hotel in Sylvan, California, and then I'm working on closing a deal up in Washington State where I live. They say real estate shouldn't be emotional, but this purchase that we're doing is a little emotional because of where my wife and I got married. But we've always wanted to create something iconic, and we're gonna be able to do it out on this island. We still have to close and have to go through all that, but I think you can make money on Airbnb anywhere. And so if you take the fundamentals that I just described of buying in a neighborhood that's appreciating, do a little bit of work, create the amenities that the guests want, take amazing photos, and make sure that you actively manage it, especially in the beginning, so that you can get the right bookings and maximize the revenue. I think you can make money on Airbnb anywhere. Um, I think the most successful Airbnbs will have some outdoor space. That's my opinion. They need some outdoor space, and like, be ready to spend a little bit of money on amenities, right? So I've talked a lot about down payments and leverage, but you also need some cash to like put saunas and cold plunges, and like, you're gonna need to compete with the people who are doing it really well. And so figure out how to do that. The Carolinas, I think, are doing really well. Upstate New York, I've got some friends that are like doing really well in upstate New York, the Finger Lakes and Albany and those areas. So yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Beyond real estate, you're doing a bunch of things to help people create financial freedom. You're doing some coaching. You started a podcast. Talk a little bit about yourself and what you got going on kind of in the future here.
Yeah, the podcast has been really fun. It's called For Your Own Good, which I'm also really focused on the YouTube channel. So it's Kassidy Warren on YouTube. And I just did an amazing episode with Dan Martell on AI, live audience in New York. The podcast and the content is really me wanting to share everything that I know, mindset, real estate, motivation, fundamentals. And then I also just want to like go talk to really cool people like yourself. And so like, it's sort of a selfish endeavor to like, hey, can I go talk to Dan? Can I go talk to Alex and Cody and all these people that I've been watching and others, and like just share it with everybody and have fun doing it. So I think I'm really proud of what I've been doing on the podcast and the YouTube channel. We're about to cross 5,000 subscribers, so please subscribe, on our way to 1 million.
Good job.
Thank you. And then the community. Yeah, my community is called Escape Velocity, and it's essentially centered around everything that we've been talking about. It's creating that escape velocity out of your job or whatever life you're living right now, and using the principles that I just talked about of buying the right type of real estate. And it's a community where everybody in there is sort of on the same mission to buy either like short-term rentals or hotels or ADUs. And I'm there with everybody helping guide that and push so that you can do that a lot faster than you think. Because like I talked about earlier, like the transformation happens at the transaction. When you decide to join the community, like we're all in, you're all in, and we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Community, man, is like, since I started about 1.5 years ago, just it's been like the difference maker. I've had a lot of people reach out to myself as well, because like I've been public facing like on the internet for the last few years, and I was 50 pounds heavier 1.5 years ago.
Oh, you were?
Oh yeah. And like it was 230 pounds
Right.
1.5 years ago. But the difference maker was like getting into communities. That's what got me going. That's getting into Dan's community, like Rich's, yours now. Like honestly, you got to pay for these things sometimes, and like whatever, we went over that already, but like it's so worth it. And that investment in yourself will change your life. Like if I had to say there was one thing that was the difference maker, it was saying, okay, I'm going to commit to something and actually taking a step forward and taking action on that and just trying it. Like some of them weren't the best options, some of them were, but you got to like at least move towards something.
Yeah.
Something is better than nothing.
That's right. And in the community, like I'm so passionate about helping people not buy a bad deal or like get out of bad deals, because so many people got it from their cousin or their brother or this, or they bought it a long time ago and it doesn't make them money anymore. It doesn't cash flow. It's not appreciating. I bought this condo. Like all these things are so common, and like having me in the community there, we're gonna be like, no, this is what you need to buy. And it's that support along the way. Like you might have been fearful of buying this $1 million Airbnb, but we're gonna be there all along the way helping you do it and tell you that this is the right deal. This is the thing that you need to be doing based on the goals that you've decided that you want to do. So I have this community. If you're interested, you can DM me Escape on Instagram. I'm at Kassidy.Warren. You can say Escape and let me know that you came from the Powerline podcast, and it would be great to get in touch and see if it's a good fit.
Love it, dude. Thank you. This content is completely free. All right. The only thing I'm asking you for is to hit that subscribe button. And I know it's cheesy. I know it's corny. I know every YouTuber asks you to hit that button, and you're probably sick and tired of it. But if you like the show and you want to see the show grow, this is the way I prove to the people in charge that it's worth investing in. So it's pretty simple, and it's the price you can pay for me. It's no money. It's just a subscribe. Please hit the subscribe, and I appreciate the heck out of you for it.